right, so here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about the election today. So if I get myself deplatformed, come see me on Rumble. But anyway, let's go on to Texas and see what's happening down there.
Texas is quickly gaining more supporters and opponents in its Supreme Court election lawsuit. Of all the lawsuits, this one is getting major attention as it could impact electoral votes of 4 states. 6 states are asking the Supreme Court to join the lawsuit this Thursday, arguing the case affects their interests.
So we have here probably one of the most exciting Supreme Court cases that we've had in a while. And we've got a whole bunch of states going against a whole bunch of states, as 20 have signed against the Texas lawsuit. And so the 20 states that have attorney generals that are Democrats, of course, have filed against the Texas lawsuit. Now, the other side, the Texas lawsuit, friends, has about 18 states that have either joined the lawsuit or have kind of put in their 2 cents worth on it. And so the Texas lawsuit is unclear exactly when the Supreme Court's going to hear it, but you can be sure that it's going to be very soon.
The 6 states are among 18 states that have filed briefs supporting Texas. Members of the opposing camp are growing quick, though, with 20 states and 2 territories filing briefs supporting defendants this Thursday. Texas filed a lawsuit against 4 key battleground states this Tuesday. It argues these states conducted elections in ways that violate the Constitution.
So the big question is, what is Texas really trying to get out of this?
Block the states from certifying their presidential electors or have their electors from casting votes. It also asks the highest court to not count the electoral votes of these states and direct state legislatures to select electors in line with the Constitution. The 4 states have 62 electoral votes in total. They submitted their response on Thursday, arguing Texas waited too long to bring the suit.
62 electoral votes are at stake in the Texas lawsuit. And so this lawsuit is very, very significant in American history, really. And so they're asking the Supreme Court to stop the counting of the electoral votes, which would result in probably one of 2 things, this being put to the House legislatures or this going to the House of Representatives. And really, it's not clear who would win in either case. I'm not completely sure that anybody is willing to do anything that would overturn the election. So as you probably know, in Georgia, there was another huge hearing yesterday, and this went on for many hours and went over the same stuff they've been going over. And so it's either the video they've got from Fulton County or Dominion Machines or one thing or another. And I won't go too much into detail on it as there's plenty of videos out that will tell you all about that if you want to hear about it. But anyway, Georgia is in hopes that the Texas lawsuit will pick up some of their momentum, but I don't think the Texas lawsuit is really wanting to talk about the nuts and bolts of fraud. What they're wanting to talk about is the constitutionality of how the states conducted the elections. And that's where the Texas lawsuit is, so I'm not too sure that they're going to want to use much from the Georgia case, which is more talking about different kinds of fraud, Dominion Machines, and things of that nature. I think those things are so hard to prove, or apparently in the court of public opinion, they seem to be pretty hard to prove. And so they're going to go ahead and go with the constitutionality of how the elections were conducted, which seems to be a very smart move to me.
Some GOP leaders in Georgia tell us they hope these testimonies can be used to strengthen the Texas lawsuit and clearly show the patterns of loopholes where fraud was possible.
All right, so let's go out to Arizona. Now, this is very, very interesting to me. You'll notice that in the Texas lawsuit, Arizona is not mentioned. And of course, that probably leads you to say, well, why wouldn't it be? Texas has trimmed the fat off the edges of all of the allegations and went for one specific thing. They're targeting the constitutionality, and in Arizona, they believe that the constitutionality of the election was just fine. Of course, the Sidney Powell case isn't talking about constitutionality. It's talking about all the different manners in which she believes that voter fraud was conducted in Arizona. And so that's pretty interesting to think about, because you would think that it would be better for them to throw in more states. But the opposite is true. I believe that it's better for them to focus on states that they believe they have a very strong case, and I think that they have thought this thing out, and I think that's why it took them a minute or 2 to file it.
According to the Washington Times, Arizona Republican Party Chair Kelly Ward announced that the election lawsuit will be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court. Former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell filed the suit December 2nd on behalf of the state's 11 GOP electors and others.
And we've always known that this will ultimately be decided in the U.S. Supreme Court. And so we're ready to fight on and ready to take this fight to the very finish, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court.
The lawsuit alleges...
And there you have it. It's going to ultimately be decided in the Supreme Court, and I believe that's the case. I think that whatever the Supreme Court does is going to probably seal the deal. I'm not sure that it's going to get so far as state legislatures. I'm not so sure that it's going to get so far as to go into the Senate or the House of Representatives. I think that the Supreme Court is probably either going to put the kibosh on the whole thing, or they're going to make a ruling that probably would be so sweeping that it would overturn the election. And so that'll be interesting to see exactly how the Supreme Court handles this. I do not envy those guys whatsoever. So the next clip is going to tell us exactly what is alleged in the Arizona suit, and it's going in a totally different route than the Texas suit is. It's trying to get to the Supreme Court on the merits of its findings and its investigations that pertain to fraud. And so that's going to be a whole different sort of a case that the Supreme Court will have to see there, if indeed this is on the docket. So we'll just have to see how that works out.
The lawsuit alleges that Dominion election software was manipulated and other fraud occurred in the state, violating the Constitution and state election laws. The lawsuit also claims over 412,000 votes were illegally cast.
We presented reports from both statisticians and a cybersecurity expert explaining how the results the machines produced could only be evidence of fraud.
Colladin says over 5,000 ballots from Maricopa County were from out-of-state voters. He says it's common for lower court judges to dismiss tough cases like this because he says they don't want to be responsible for changing an election.
Lower courts don't want to be responsible for changing an election, and I can understand why. It's a huge responsibility, and it's going to really going to be something to see. And so I don't think that state legislatures are going to want to decide it either. Nobody wants to make a call on this, and that's pretty understandable. But that's really the wrap up for today. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you in a while.